Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we are discussing Sanguinius, the Primarch of the Blood Angels, and his opinion of each and every brother Primarch. Obviously a general spoiler warning here to begin, as we will be mentioning events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, in particular the Horus Heresy series. Now, as always, when it comes to Primarchs and their opinions of their brothers, we aren't always lucky enough to get every answer we want. So as ever with the lore, there'll be particular relationships where we'll have to use a bit more guesswork and interpretation. And I've done my best to find references for particular Primarchs from Sanguinius' viewpoint. However, if there's one I may have missed, as always, drop it down in the comments below. But without further ado, let's begin with the first, Lion L. Johnson. Now, thankfully, we got a fair bit of interaction between L. Johnson and Sanguinius during the Imperium Secundus storyline, Roboute Guilliman's attempts during the Heresy to keep his father's dream alive. Sanguinius was obviously appointed Emperor of this ill-fated empire, which speaks to L. Johnson's high level of respect for the Angel. And indeed, we have many references of the Angel being L. Johnson's most beloved brother. Now, in regards to the Angel's opinion of L. Johnson, well, it appears to have been about as good a relationship as possible when it comes to the Lion. Upon Sanguinius' arrival to Ultramar, he embraced L. Johnson with a hug, which for Sanguinius is no small thing, but for the Lion it most certainly is. And so it speaks to their relationship that Sanguinius would feel comfortable to greet L. Johnson in that manner, because he undoubtedly wouldn't have if he knew L. Johnson wouldn't want it. There's also a part within the novel Ferrus where Guilliman is asking Sanguinius to punish L. Johnson for his secrets, for hiding exactly what he has been up to them both. However, despite being equally as frustrated as Guilliman, Sanguinius refused to punish him. Absolutely not. Sanguinius' mouth set resolutely. I will not rebuke him, Roboute. I will not shame him. I will not make it appear I value your words over his. We are in this together. That's a clear sign of respect for L. Johnson there, regardless of anything else. So the Angel respected the Lion, and he had a measure of brotherly affection for him, undoubtedly. But as ever with the Lion, it wasn't the closest of relationships. And in fact, Sanguinius shared Roboute's frustration, becoming equally as frustrated by his lies. And it was Sanguinius who ordered the Lion to be banished from their Imperium Secundus, so it most certainly wasn't without difficulty. But regardless of those difficulties, the respect was there. Moving on to the Phoenician, Fulgrim. Now, the Angel and the Phoenician to me both share the symbol roles for the Imperium, the two Primarchs who clearly were created to represent the Imperium in some manner, perhaps even their father. There's not much in regards to Sanguinius' personal opinion of Fulgrim. However, the two quite clearly got along well, and even share a teasing joke at the expense of Mortarion within the novel Scars. Sanguinius took a sip of wine from his glass, serenely unconcerned. Brother, you should be pleased for Horus. Why? Mortarion's expression was pinched. Because he was found first, had the longest to work with his legion. If it had been you on Cophonia, if it had been me, We might have been in his place now. Fulgrim sniffed. Speak for yourself. Being War Master is not the only accolade. Sanguinius laughed. No more talk of your Palatine Aquila, brother. You will only make him more jealous. I'm not jealous. Not of Horus, nor of you, scowled Mortarion, missing the humour in Sanguinius's voice. You don't understand the problem. Fulgrim leaned forward, clasping his long hands together. Which is? While he was leading us, said Mortarion, we fought to gain even a glance or gesture from him. That was acceptable, for none of us are his rival. Nothing in the galaxy is his rival. Now we will fight to gain a glance from Horus. But Horus is not the architect of this. He is just one of us. It will lead to trouble. Fulgrim shot a tolerant glance at Sanguinius. He is jealous. This is all in good-natured fun. A bit of brotherly banter between the Primarchs, before things get a little tense between Jaghatai and Fulgrim after. But although this is a brief moment, it quite clearly shows Fulgrim and Sanguinius not only get along well, but must have spent a degree of time together to be able to have that kind of bantering off against each other, being able to wind up their fellow brothers. And it's a bit of a shame we've never seen much of that, to be honest. I think seeing Fulgrim spending time with Sanguinius would probably show us a warmer side of Fulgrim that we didn't get to see too often. But as it is, with what we have to go by, it appeared Sanguinius and Fulgrim got along very well. Now moving on to Perturabo, another relationship we don't have much to go by. On the surface you'd expect there to be little in common between them, and that actually in itself could be a pretty accurate description, as there's a moment within Jaghatai Khan's Primarch series novel, Warhawk of Chagoris, where Sanguinius is meeting Jaghatai for the first time, and there he makes a comment regarding Perturabo. The Khan fought on that. I've never desired fellowship with any of you, he said eventually, almost uncertainly, as if the sentiment were being dragged out of him. Do not take that as pride, more like necessity, he grimaced. I find obligation to others difficult. When I see walls, I want to escape them. That is a flaw, no doubt. But then we were made the way we are for a reason. You would not find me an easy colleague. The angel laughed. Have you met the master of Olympia yet? These things are all relative. The angel is renowned for getting along with most of his brothers, but it's pretty clear here, at the very least, he found Perturabo hard going, and considering the differences in their personalities, maybe that shouldn't be too much of a surprise. So I wouldn't say Perturabo and Sanguinius were the best of friends. Let's put it that way. But moving on, up next, we have Jaghatai Khan. And well, this one is nice and easy. Sanguinius liked Jaghatai. He found him a little difficult to understand, personality-wise, as is Jaghatai's way, and he could be frustrated by his actions, a bit like with Lionel Johnson. But he did like him. There's a passage within the novel Warhawk that probably sums it up the best. We're not coming back. You're almost entirely surrounded. Yes, we are. Sanguinius clenched a single fist, willing himself to remain calm. He admired Jaghatai, He had laboured long with him on the elements of the Librarius. He had fought alongside him more than once. But still, the pig-headedness could irritate. So he undoubtedly liked him as a brother. As stated, the two were firm allies in standing up for the Librarius amongst the legions, forming a strong bond with their brother Magnus in that regard. And their relationship only became even stronger during the events of the Siege of Terra, with Sanguinius and Jaghatai fighting alongside each other upon the front lines. When Jaghatai fell from his jet bike in a sally against the Death Guard, becoming overwhelmed, it was Sanguinius who didn't hesitate for a second to come to his brother's aid, charging forth into the enemy to save his brother. And there are many moments between the two during the Siege of Terra series, highlighting their bond of brotherhood. However, still, due to that very different nature between them, there could still be those moments of frustration and disagreement. Now on to our fifth Primarch. We have Leman Russ. Now this is a relationship that lands more on the respect side of things than perhaps a friendship, in my opinion. There's very little in regards to their relationship for us to go by. However, the two did come face to face during the events of the novel Wolfsbane, when Sanguinius arrived to the Throne World. There wasn't any signs of a particularly close friendship, but there clearly wasn't any signs of a problem between the two either. Sanguinius referred to the Wolf King as Leman when addressing him, rather than Russ, which perhaps could be taken as a sign of a closer relationship than not, or at the very least a bit more personable. But that was really all we saw. Admittedly, it was straight down to business when the Angel arrived at Terra, but still we can only go by what we see. And that respectful but distant relationship would fit in my opinion. I've always felt that Leman Russ intentionally held his brothers at arm's length somewhat, with his role as executioner, not wanting to get too close to them. And I don't think he'd make exceptions for any of them. It wasn't a cold relationship between the two, and they were clearly familiar, comfortable being in each other's presence. But I don't think there was much more than that. Russ maintaining the aura of the Wolf King. However, moving on, we have Rogal Dawn. The Angel and Rogal undoubtedly had a great relationship. In the earlier days of the Heresy, Rogal categorically refused the notion of the Angel possibly being traitor, clearly revealing how high Rogal regarded him. And when Sanguinius arrived back to the Throne World, it was Rogal who was first to greet him. And though it was a tense time, the relief both felt at the reunion was clear. And we have many moments of the two side by side in the days leading up to the Siege of Terra. And never once did Sanguinius question his brother's leadership. Never once did the Angel display anger towards his fellow Primarch. Sanguinius wasn't just willing to give everything for the Emperor, for the Imperium. In truth, he was equally willing to give everything for Rogal. And there is absolutely no better scene or moment to show us just how much Sanguinius valued his brother than their moment entering the throne room within the novel The End and the Death Volume 1, where despite it all coming down to this, despite everything he himself has had to go through, the sheer exhaustion of fighting on that front line, Sanguinius still makes a point of telling Rogal how well he's done. Dawn turns but Sanguinius catches his arm and stops him. For a second, they stand shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye. "You've performed the most extraordinary feat," Sanguinius says unexpectedly. "Please remember that." Dawn is taken aback by the frankness of the comment, and the innocent sincerity with which it is expressed. His startled half-smile wavers with imprisoned emotion, a flash of light at the high-slit window of an otherwise impregnable keep. "A mere fraction of your deeds, brother," he replies awkwardly. "You closed the gate. You locked." Sanguinius shakes his head. "I was a warrior, Rogel. Just a warrior. You were the one who mattered." He embraces the Praetorian, the spontaneous impulse of a child. As with his guileless comment, the embrace is unexpected and unself-conscious, a rare display of emotion, especially in such a gathering. For a moment, Dawn freezes, then he completes the embrace. When they step back, a single teardrop glints on the brightest one's pauldron, where the Praetorian rested his head. That is the true mark of brotherhood. And we really need to get some more Rogel Sanguinius Great Crusade era stories after this. Being able to see the brothers conversing in happier times. The formation of that friendship. But as it was, quite clearly Sanguinius had a lot of time for Rogel. Moving on, next, we have the Night Haunter, Konrad Curze. Now, Sanguinius and Konrad's relationship is a bit of an interesting one, thanks to them both sharing their father's gift of foresight. Undoubtedly, that means the two share a connection that no other two Primarchs do. Being able to see the two discuss that in the Great Crusade would be absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely on the wish list for me. But unfortunately, we only have the two interacting in the depths of the heresy to go by. Perhaps the best example when Konrad sought out Sanguinius during his time as Emperor of Imperium Secundus, within the novel Ferrus. And in this interaction, while after Konrad's fall, doesn't really give much sign of any former fond relationship. In fact, Sanguinius is quick to draw his sword, declaring Konrad no longer any brother of his. And it feels very much like Konrad harboured a jealousy of his brother, the shining golden angel. And yet still, despite that, secretly deep within, maybe he still looked up to him in a way. And you get the sense that Sanguinius's opinion of Curze was fairly similar to all of his brothers. A dislike for Konrad's manner and his tactics. If anything comes across clear, it's that the two absolutely did not share any kind of close relationship previously. However, through their conversation, there are glimpses that Sanguinius did care for him, in a way, recognizing the tie of brotherhood. The difference between you and me is that you see sinister purpose behind his actions. I do not. His secrecy hurt me, Konrad, as much as it hurts you, and the conclusion you have reached hurts me also. And then later, there is hope for all of us, Konrad. Curze smirked. No, there isn't. I am hated. You have always hated me. You were not hated. I am hated, he shouted. The clues here of an uneasy relationship maybe. Not even a particularly good one, but one where Sanguinius still clearly cared for Konrad at least as a brother. Maybe pitied him. maybe disapproved, maybe regretted. Most likely a combination of them all. But now, moving on to our final Primarch for Part 1, we have the Gorgon, Ferrus Manus. Well, considering Ferrus Manus's early demise in the Heresy, we of course didn't have much to go by in regards to the relationship between them. However, then came Volume 2 of The End and the Death, where Sanguinius would encounter the slain ghost, the soul of his departed brother. It's most definitely an encounter I want to discuss in depth. However, here, despite Sanguinius's obvious wariness in regards to it being a trick or trap, we could see enough between them to register a good relationship between them in the past. The first thing is, Horus wouldn't have even wasted his time summoning the soul of Ferrus if Sanguinius wouldn't have been bothered by it. So the mere fact that he does bring Ferrus forth speaks to the fact that Horus knew it would be a distraction for the angel. That Horus knew Sanguinius did care for his slain brother. And when Ferrus smiles at Sanguinius's comment of still killing Horus, we get the line, "It's a wounded version of a smile Sanguinius has long missed," and it tugs at his heart. Though we don't know much about their history or relationship at all, that one comment tells us enough. That Sanguinius cared and loved his brother. He grieved for him and misses him. And Ferrus's later comment of, "I wouldn't not be here for you," reinforces that equally. We never really got to see it, but there was definitely a good friendship between the Angel and the Gorgon. This encounter between them at the end surely reinforces it. But okay, that's it for Part 1. Sanguinius's opinions of his brother Primarchs. We'll continue on with the second half in Part 2 next time up. But as always everyone, what do you think? Are there any surprises here? Or is it all largely as expected? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.